we did talk about this on Friday night in the pre and post game show, a little bit MBD. Well, at least I shouldn't speak for the others. I said I wanted to see him at least 2 of 3 times this weekend. Now, the Marlins did throw 3 lefties this weekend in Luzardo, Braxton Garrett, and who was our man Friday night? Trevor Rogers.
Yes.
So 3 lefties went for the Marlins, which is unusual. You're not really going to see that in a series that often. And you do kind of have to tip your hat to Rob a little bit because Christian Pache had a pretty nice weekend, both in the field and at plate. So this is, Brandon Marsh plays 1 of 3 games in the series. I would have liked to have seen 2 of 3. I think Brandon Marsh has played above, 66% of the time getting sat against lefties type of guy. I'd like to see it a little more towards 50-50 at the end of the year. Maybe it balances out that way, but Brandon Marsh does only get the 1 start this weekend. I think it's a little weird with the context of saying Christian Pache was successful this weekend.
Well, again, when we talked about it on Friday,
I kind of sound hypocritical because it
Yes.
worked, but he should be playing 2 of those 3 games.
Yes, and when we talked about it Friday, obviously we didn't know how well Pache was going to play this weekend. But as we saw with Brandon Marsh sitting out both Friday and Saturday, Edmundo Sosa and Pache went combined 10 for 18. So Pache was 5 for 9 Friday and Saturday with a double. Sosa was 5 of 9. And then overall, this stat was kind of interesting because I know we talk a lot about, the management of Brandon Marsh and Bryson Stott against lefties and, tweaking the lineup and tweaking the batting order. Well, the Phillies' 6, 7, 8, 9 hitters were on base in 17 of 36 plate appearances Friday and Saturday. They're getting on base. They're giving you good at-bats.
Yeah.
They're helping you score runs. So although we'd love to see Marsh get 2 of those 3 starts this weekend.
It's not backfiring where we can go brimstone and fire.
And it's not backfiring enough to exactly. It's not backfiring enough to demand that you gotta allow Marsh to get the start there because
Dan
Pache's
and MBD,
doing well.
We're with you, Dan and MBD, about he's not going to improve versus lefties unless he gets opportunities.
Agreed.
And again, I can't speak for everybody, but this was my thought on it. For the first half of the year, I'm fine with the way Rob's doing this, but I think once you hit July, August, September, to their point, you do have to give him some more experience versus lefties because you're not going to sit Brandon Marsh in a playoff series. So give him some at-bats versus lefties in the second half of the season. First half of the season, pre-All-Star break, I'm going to let you manage the roster how you see fit in terms of that because it is a long season, yada, yada, yada. But second half, he's got to see more lefty pitching.
I do think the concern is, even with as well as Pache and Sosa did this past weekend, their ceiling is not as high as Brandon Marsh's, as we all know. So, yes, they did deliver. They played well this weekend, but you have to get Brandon Marsh going against lefties. You have to get even Stott going against lefties. And so I wonder, with as much as, especially baseball players specifically, but as athletes, you're so routine, is it better to have a clean cut, like you're mentioning, first half, second half split, or to try to sprinkle Marsh in an occasional series here and there versus a lefty?
Well, this would have been the series to do it with 3 games.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like this
not.
series versus the Marlins would have been a prime series against a team that's struggling, that's selling the team, bottom of the standings, to go ahead and get Brandon Marsh some reps against the lefty.
Yeah, and part of it is Pache. He stinks versus right-handed pitching, so you have an opportunity to throw him against lefties. Tyler writes up on the screen that Marsh is 4 for 30 versus left-handed pitching with 16 Ks. I mean, that's like automatic out status. The problem is, come playoff time, you can't hide from lefties. So that's where the debate is born from.
And that's why I think for Rob Thompson's sake, it's almost a chicken or the egg situation. It's like
kinda.
Does Brandon Marsh stink against left-handed hitting?
By the way, the egg was first.
Okay, thanks,
Was
dinosaur man.
There are proteins in the eggshell that can literally only come from the chicken. Okay, go on.
I'm giving you like the John Krasinski from The Office, just like
I'm just saying it's a debate that can be proven.
So the egg absolutely came before the chicken.
Does Brandon Marsh actually stink against left-handed hitters in the small sample size, 4 for 30 with 16 strikeouts? Is that true? Does that actually mean that? Or is Brandon Marsh not succeeding against left-handed hitters because he's not getting an opportunity on a near everyday basis to succeed against left-handed and kind of sink or swim on your own? I think Rob Thomson's in a no-win, like kind of precarious situation because if he doesn't play him, people are going to say Brandon Marsh is an everyday player, correct?
Sure.
And I think Brandon Marsh is much closer to an everyday player than Rob Thomson is giving him credit for currently. But on the flip side,
I don't even think he's discrediting. I think it's just like he has to play Pache occasionally to justify a roster spot, and he stinks. So it's like,
but also on the flip side, if you
the right move,
if you project 4 for 30 over the course of, I don't think he's going to get 200 at bats against lefties,
no,
but maybe
get 100.
Maybe he gets 120. If you, not to say he's going to go 12 for 120, but if you project, or 16 for 120, if you project that to be the case, then Rob Thomson's going to sit here and say, I'm not sure how much I can play him against lefties. I don't think there's no
perfect answer.
There's no perfect answer right now, other than I'm almost inversely going with what you're saying. I think he needs to get left-handed at bats now.
Oh, you would have him in the first half.
because I think these are lower leverage games than August, September,
counterpoint
October.
to that, the Phillies have built up such an amazing record that you can not stress about August games as much.
So in that regard, you may be true, but I think right now is your best opportunity to allow him to get comfortable or to kind of sink or swim on his own.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would come down to Brandon Marsh, maybe. I don't know. Maybe
Brandon Marsh should be closer to an everyday player than what they're allowing. But I think that Brandon Marsh has to prove a little bit more against lefties, and you can only do that against
Renee
lefties.
Has been having a good season. He's tonight
playing against lefties.
Now, do you play Brandon Marsh tonight?
That's
Sean Renee is a lefty who's having I know the rhetoric out there amongst the public is going to be Sean Renee has sucked. Well, this year he's got like a 3.5 ERA. I had him in fantasy for a couple weeks. He's a lefty. Now, do you go back-to-back Brandon Marsh, lefty?
Right.
This is 4 straight games versus left-handed starting pitchers, which is kind of wild. So what do you do tonight? Is Brandon Marsh in the starting lineup, or does Christian Pache get another run? Does Whit Merrifield play left field?
I think Brandon Marsh has to play today.
I think he plays tonight. Right?
I think the other side of it is Christian Pache. And again, you want to focus more on Marsh than Pache because you can get more from Marsh. But obviously, Rob is trying to keep Christian Pache, as you mentioned, get him in the lineup occasionally. So
if you want to trade him, you got to showcase him.
Right, if you're going to keep him on the team, he's got to play. And also, you never know. Like as we even see with Kyle Schwarber going down and Trey Turner going down and JT unable to play, you don't know who you're going to need. So from a team management perspective, I fully understand keeping guys going. You get Edmundo Sosa that gets the triple. You get Pache that's 5 for 9. Now they're feeling good if you do need them, and God forbid somebody goes down with an injury. But on the flip side, that's why I think it's good to sprinkle, and that's why I even asked that question: is it an even split for Brandon Marsh, or do you sprinkle him in now? Because why wait? Try him out now. Strategically pick a couple of series that you're going up against lefties, and you can have Brandon Marsh.
I think Rob disagrees because this would have been the series to do it.